What's up, everybody? Welcome to a brand new episode. And this is not the GPA podcast. This is now the Rain Report. We had to change the name for legal reasons. Let's not get into it for now. Let's just appreciate that we're still going strong, and there is nothing that is going to stop anything around here for now. So I have two amazing guests with me. One of the guests you already had the pleasure to meet, and that is Maggie. Welcome back.
Thank you.
And now we have a brand new guest as well. Hello, Larissa. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me.
So this episode is going to be one of the very interesting one, and probably for those who never heard of Middle Eastern Christians, it's going to be somewhat exciting and maybe surprising. So Larissa and Maggie are Palestinian. Well, Maggie's half Lebanese and half Palestinian. Before the audience come for me and correct me again. Larissa, you're full Palestinian?
No, I'm half Lebanese, half Palestinian.
You're
So my mother's
joking.
Lebanese and my father's Palestinian. Yeah, there you go.
Okay, so somehow, somewhere, I managed to get me two half Palestinian, half Lebanese. That's amazing. I love this. Yeah, I love this. I really, really do. So, and both of you guys are Christians, and this is actually kind of like a good moment that we come together and talk about Christian Middle Eastern or Christian Arabs or Christian Palestinians or whatever. But on the other hand, it's actually really sad that we have to do that because for some reason, you guys don't really have a voice out there, like a major voice or a mainstream voice, whether in the media or anywhere else.
Yeah,
So,
the politicians call it the Muslim countries, which is just so odd because it's Muslim and Christians. It's not just, but they do that to dehumanize Arabs in order to, and when they just like, as you were saying, we're Levantine, so we're not exactly Arab, where the Arab countries lie, or, like Iraq, Kuwait, and then there's Levantine, which are the countries that surround the Mediterranean. And those countries are, more of, you'll find, a mixture of Christian and Muslims.
so what I find interesting also with you guys, so Larissa is in Australia and Maggie's from Canada, then moved to Cali, and then now in Egypt working on this amazing project. By the way, guys, make sure to check out the episode with Maggie where she talks about the education centers for the evacuated children from Gaza. And please get engaged and involved in that and help out all the amazing work that these people are doing over there in Egypt. So it's very interesting. So you both grew up in the West. You were both born in the West, or how does that work?
Yeah, I was born in Australia, so I'm first generation here. My
Mm-hmm.
parents were born, well, my mum's Lebanese, so she was born in Lebanon. My father was born in 1950, so he was born in Lebanon as well. Because his mum and his mother and father and his siblings were all around during the Nakba, so they fled to Lebanon, and he was the younger of the siblings. So he and his little sister were born in Lebanon, and the other five were born in Palestine.
Wow. And I guess he never had the chance to go back, right?
Nope.
And you've never
No,
been either.
no. So he was born with Palestinian refugee status, so he didn't have a citizenship or anything. Yeah.
Yeah, this is the story. So, how is it growing up for you guys at school? You obviously identify as Palestinian Lebanese or Lebanese Palestinian, however you want to call it, and people gonna always assume that you're Muslim.
Yeah, which is very interesting because if you know anything about Christianity, Jesus Christ actually came from Palestine.
Yes.
He was born in Bethlehem. He was crucified in Jerusalem. So um, it's not like he came from Texas or Ukraine or anything like that. He's actually from our region, and that's where Christianity originated. We are also the oldest Christian community in the world. because that's where it began. However, the West has decided to erase that in a way, and just call us all Arabs or we're all Muslims. However, we are not. And it's all just part of this dehumanization and ethnic erasure, lumping us in, so that they can conflate, like, like injustices that might happen in Afghanistan, which is not even an Arab country. It's like Persia, and then they go, oh, this is all you. And so we get blamed for everything that happens in the world. You don't see that with other people. So, for example, if China did something, they don't blame Japanese people as well just because they're Asians. However, they do that with us. We're responsible for the entire world and everything that happens in it for some reason. Yeah, it's quite disgusting, really.
It definitely
But
is.
it's horrible that we even need to talk about it. It's as if it's okay to kill the Palestinians and kill the Lebanese people because they're Muslims. Do you know what I mean?
Absolutely.
So even bringing up this whole fact that, like there is Christians as well, doesn't make it okay to
But
kill
why
people
should we
because
have to
they're
say it?
Muslim.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, like we're all people, we're all human beings. And for some reason, though, the religion is being used to demonize and dehumanize and erase us. It's also being used on the other side with like Jewish supremacy, God's chosen people, to justify it all. And then you've got Western Christians allowing it and accepting it. And they just want to, I guess, ignore the fact that, we aren't all Muslims. No, I'm sorry, but Jewish people are not better or more important than the rest of humanity. And nothing justifies a genocide. Nothing justifies killing people, regardless of what their religion is.
Absolutely. How was it for you, Maggie, growing up? You went to school in Canada. Did people automatically assume you're a Muslim when you said you're from the Middle East?
No, I mean, I was 5 years old when we left Canada and went
Oh,
to Egypt to live in Egypt. And I went to the American school there. And, I would just go back to Canada every summer to see my family on my dad's side that lived there. But yeah, no, I mean, it was so weird because I was living in Egypt, but going to an American school with all Americans, like military kids, and parents that they worked, as ambassadors or for the embassy or for gas companies or whatever. And, it was no different than being in the States. So when I was ever asked, they just assume I'm Muslim because that's what they assume, that if you are from the Middle East, you are Muslim. And
yeah.
when, it was a very strange reaction I get when I would tell them I'm Christian. That reaction would be, oh, like now, it's like, oh, I could relate to you now, like, oh, you're okay. For me, I see that as it's just been through the media. It's been mainly through the media, through the language in the news, growing up and watching how they dehumanize Muslims to create this like religion, this idea that the Muslim religion, is, a religion that condones,
Violence.
death and
Yeah.
destruction. And so they have this idea. They don't understand Islam at all, and I don't feel like I have to tell them to get their approval, because I shouldn't have to tell you what religion I am because I'm from the Middle East. So I usually don't tell people, like, because I really don't feel like I have to justify it myself, and I don't need to feed into that already, that ideology of that Islam's bad or Muslims are bad, or they're terrorists and they hate us. This is the common ground. If you look at comments and social media, they will say things like, why should we care about people who hate us? That is their thought of the religion, but at the same time, they don't understand that also the history on the other side of it, that they think that Jesus spoke Hebrew, which he didn't. He spoke Arabic. They think that that was the Israel that is today from 75 years ago. They think that is, and they have this idea that those people are the ones, the ones that came from Europe, the Zionists, that they are the ones that were there during the biblical times. So they don't even acknowledge Palestine as a country because they believe that Israel's been there as long as Jesus Christ has been there.
So can you guys,
interesting.
It really is. It really, really is. And that's why I want to touch on. Can you guys talk a little bit about the difference of Christianity from the West and from the Middle East? Like, we have like obviously different Christian groups, same like we have Muslim or Jewish groups, what are mainly Middle Eastern following as when it comes to Christianity? Are they Catholics? Are they like, what are they?
Egyptians are Coptics. The Egyptian Christians are Coptics, and then I'm Catholic on both my Palestinian Lebanese side. So we're either Orthodox, Catholic, or Coptic, which is a form of Orthodox. And I think you can explain more about that than I probably could, but those are the three types of Christianity that I know about in the Middle East, and I'm Catholic, but they don't think that exists. They think that they think that it's just either Orthodox or Coptic. They don't believe like Catholicism. They don't even understand, the original, where Christianity derived, because they have these New Testaments. And I've been to church in the States. I go to Catholic church in California, and the book is deranged. The language is different. They sing about like Israel, and so they're just kind of off on what they believe, the types of Christianity, because there's so many Western forms of Christianity, like Baptist, Protestant, those are completely different than the Christians in the Middle East. Because we have just those, yeah. Larissa?
Oh, sorry. Yeah, so like under Catholic, so Catholic's an umbrella. We've got like subgroups as well. So for example, in Lebanon, like the major group of Christians would be the Maronites. They do fall under the Catholic. Right. So my mother is actually a Maronite Lebanese, and my father is Melkite Palestinian. So Melkite as well falls under the Catholic umbrella. It joined the Holy See, I think, in 1780 or something like that. Mm-hmm. And it became part of Catholic. However, our Mass and our traditions is probably closer to Orthodox Church, mm-hmm. even though we do fall under the Catholic banner. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
How does that work? Like, if you can just like explain the main differences between Orthodox and what your dad is and what your mom is, because I also have another question when it comes to Maronites, because it's a good moment we can clean up some misunderstandings that are flying about on social media.
Yeah. Okay. So, all right. So I went to Catholic school. Mm-hmm. Okay. So I went to Catholic primary school and Catholic high school. All right. Mm-hmm. So I am Catholic, technically. Mm-hmm. If you come to my church, right? So the first Bible was arguably either written in Greek or Aramaic. All right. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. In our Mass, we use some Greek, from the ancient Greek, from the original Bible. In Maronite, they use Aramaic. So they've kind of kept the traditions going for like, 1,500, 2,000 years.
Oh.
When a Catholic, if you go to a Catholic baptism, they just put the holy water on the baby's head. We dunk our babies 3 times in the water, like fully immersed.
Hmm.
So it's just little traditions that are different. The same Bible and everything like that. Same beliefs. The biggest Christian sect that has the most differences would be like the evangelists, and they believe
Mm-hmm.
the rapture, end of days. Their belief is that all the Jews need to return to Israel for the Messiah to come, and then there's like Armageddon and whatever, and then people get wiped out, and I don't know. Whereas that's not really a common um, thought process in like Catholicism or Orthodox Christians. So that's probably the main difference between like your American Christian society, which is predominantly like evangelical, most likely, and then like your other Christians in other parts of the world.
What about the Trinity? What about Christmas? All of that for you guys.
We have all that.
So you believe in the Trinity?
Yeah. So in the
Yeah.
name of the Father, Son, Holy Spirit. Yes.
Yeah.
We do that in our Mass. Yes.
So when it
I'm
comes,
Roman Catholic,
that means,
which is Roman Catholic.
yeah, that means
And
you don't believe in the Trinity?
oh no, we do. Of
Okay.
course we do. I was just saying because there was the Marianite and then the Orthodox, but then I was going to
Ah,
mention we're Roman Catholic, yeah, which is I just really honestly didn't hear about all the different types of Christianity because we kind of lived in my own bubble. Like when we go to church, it's like, oh, we go to Catholic church, but going to Catholic church also in the States is very different.
mm-hmm.
There's songs when you're not going to the Arabic one because it's far away, but there is an Arabic church where the priest and everything. But when you go to the like the Irish, not Irish, there's St. Killian's, for instance, or some of those kind of churches in the States, it's yeah, they're not exactly the same. They're a little bit distorted. They're very westernized. They pick up on a lot of the Western, just a little bit off the Western form of Christianity and beliefs, in Israel and singing about it, which is very odd since it just only came about 75 years ago. But yeah, I was always confused about that.
Do you guys face more prejudice and racism for being Palestinian or Christian Arabs, quote unquote?
Oh, being Palestinian for sure.
You, Larissa?
Yeah, we're terrorists. We're terrorists, regardless of our religion. We're all terrorists. Our kids are
Right.
all terrorists, and we all deserve to die. We all should be killed, because Israel is the chosen people. The Jews are the chosen people. So it's fine to steal our houses, ethnically cleanse us, eradicate us. It's fine to shoot our relatives in Gaza, and it's fine to confiscate land, regardless of if you're Muslim or Christian, because we're not chosen.
Yeah.
Why,
Right.
why, why do you guys think that a lot of Christians don't empathize with Palestinians? And I'm not talking just about the evangelical ones. Obviously, that is very clear. They believe in Israel and all of that. But what about like normal? I shouldn't even say that. Like other Christian groups, why do you feel like, especially Larissa, you have an experience, like you have family members who have been killed in that church in Gaza, right?
Yes. So my cousin's aunt and her cousin, well, her aunt's daughter, they were sniped back in December at the Holy Family Church in Gaza. She was going out to go to the bathroom. I believe she was returning, and then so she was within the church complex,
Yeah.
and that's where the Palestinian Christians have been sheltering, and they still are. and a sniper killed her. They shot her in the stomach. And then her daughter ran out to try and help her mother. They sniped her daughter. So her daughter died. So while her mother lay there bleeding out, she saw her daughter be killed. Every time someone who went out from the church tried to go to save them, the Israeli snipers would shoot at them as well. People were also hurt by the tank fire, the shrapnel from that too, in that incident. The Pope condemned it. He called it an act of terrorism. However, it got no Western media coverage or very little. And then when the mayor of Jerusalem, I believe it was, she got interviewed and she said, there's no Christians in Gaza. There's no churches in Gaza. And the interviewer, tried to correct her and said that, yes, there is. And then, yeah, she kind of backtracked on that. But they're in this state of denial. They don't want to believe that there is actual Christians. I have actually said it to people about this incident, about how my cousin's family got killed. And they just turn around and say, oh, no, you're lying. Yeah, and I can point them to their names. It's Samar and Nihada Anton, and they were both killed on the 16th of December, but they refused to even acknowledge that. You can go Google it and confirm that Israeli soldiers sniped two women in a church, and they just want to deny it or say it's made up or they're Hamas or something just ridiculous. Yeah, so I don't even know why Christians in the rest of the world still believe all the propaganda and the bullshit. Israel actually has less Christians than any of its surrounding countries. So Egypt, Lebanon, Jordan, Syria, even Iraq or Iran have more Christians than what Israel has in it. And that's the birthplace of Christianity. So that really tells you something. But for some reason, people are in this state of cognitive dissonance where, they just don't want to believe, or they want to remain ignorant because they've been fed this narrative and they've been indoctrinated and brainwashed to believe, all Arabs, all Muslims, they're all terrorists. We're all walking around with AK-47s, when in fact it's actually the Israeli settlers that are walking around with AK-47s.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Have your parents left Lebanon before Sabra and Shatila or after?
So my dad left in 76. He came to Australia and then he went back and then he married my mother and then they came back. And then I was actually in Lebanon in 1982. So I had my first birthday there. I went with my mum. And they bombed the airport. So we got stuck there. We couldn't come back for 6 months during that period. It depends who you ask. Everyone's got a different narrative of what happened.
Of course. And what's yours? I mean, obviously it was little, but your parents would have talked to you about it.
Well, my mum said that when they went in, when the army went in, everyone was already dead. That Israel killed them. But then there's there's all different narratives. My family personally, we are, we all hate what Israel did, and we're against the genocide and the ethnic cleansing and everything like that. They don't belong there. At the expense of another people. But then you've got far right extremists in any group, right?
Yes.
So there is far right, I guess a minority population of Christians perhaps. That that want Lebanon to be a Christian country. But it doesn't make sense for them to want Israel to be their neighbors, though, because Israel literally has children's books saying that they're going to take Lebanon, so.
This is actually very interesting then, because people who witnessed it, people who were there, who survived it, there are some of them, or a lot of them, are still alive. They might be like older now. If you think like people maybe who were in their 20s, 30s, 40s at that time, they're still alive. And the stories, as you said, the narrative is always different, but this is exactly, I feel like, to confuse everyone, so the truth never comes out. Would you think, or would you believe that it's a 50-50 thing?
Yeah, well, I think there's the truth, there's two sides of a story, and then there's the truth, right?
Yes, yes.
You even look at it now. So when you watch what Israel has done to the Palestinians
Mm-hmm.
and what they're doing now, they've got their version of events, right?
Mm-hmm.
Then there's the version of events of someone else, and then there's the truth. Okay. It's a bit hard to dispute the truth now because it's actually filmed live. But if you were to read about the Nakba, there's our version of how the Nakba happened and their version of how the Nakba happened. So there's always, they say the victor writes history, right?
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I guess yeah, the truth is probably somewhere in the middle of what actually happened, in a lot of cases. And I guess it just depends on which source you read as to what type of information you're going to get, especially from back then when there was no social media, there was no video streaming, there was no photos. It was just, your word against mine sort of thing.
Absolutely, absolutely. Have you been able to visit Lebanon?
Yeah, I went a while ago, I think maybe about 20 years ago.
Do you
Yeah,
feel
it's
do
pretty
you feel
great.
like, when you think about it, and the fact that you're able to visit Lebanon and you've never been able to visit Palestine, do you feel you're more connected to your Lebanese side that way? What like, how did your dad or your family generally make sure that you are Palestinian, and that you know about your culture, your traditions, and all of that?
Okay, so I have a lot of family in Lebanon.
Mm-hmm.
So my dad's sister, my cousins from my dad's sister are still there. So, and then
Mm-hmm.
I've got my mum's got a humongous family. They're all in Lebanon as well.
Mm-hmm.
So I can go to Lebanon, I can visit them. My family is from Haifa in Palestine. Haifa was actually the Jewish part
Mm-hmm.
of the United Nations partition plan,
Mm-hmm.
which means that our village got depopulated and ethnically cleansed and given to Jewish people, and then our family became refugees.
Yeah.
So we got wiped out of our land. So for me to actually go back there and go and see, um, I guess, invaders, colonizers, the people who massacred all of our villages,
Mm-hmm.
living where my origins are, um, is something that I guess is kind of disgusting to me. Like, it's disturbing to just see people that have done all these crimes against, your family, and they can get away with it. Like, what would I be visiting? I'd be visiting something that is stolen from me, and that I'll probably be persecuted for if I even speak a word, if they even let me in. Yeah, but my grandmother, my dad's mother, my Palestinian one, she lived with us. So I grew up with my grandma.
I
So
love
I grew
that.
up, with like the Palestinian food, and she would tell us stories and, stuff like that. So,
Do you
uh,
did what changed for you after October 7?
you know what? It
Mm.
actually gave me a little bit of hope.
Mhm.
I don't know if that makes sense. But
Yeah, to me it does.
yeah, because I think that a lot of Palestinians just sort of gave up in a way that okay, we're the persecuted, we're going to keep being occupied, we're never going to be allowed to return to our land. We're going to forever be generation after generation new refugees. More Palestinians are going to keep getting ethnically cleansed and forced out. More Palestinians are going to keep getting killed every couple of years when they bomb Gaza. More land is going to keep getting confiscated because that's what's been happening. And I think, and with impunity as well, with no one even knowing, it's just been silently happening. Um, and then October 7 actually made people go, hang on a minute, there's more to this, there's more to this story that we don't know about, like why did October 7 happen? And you had the United Nations Secretary General say this didn't happen in a vacuum, which I think really pushed people to go, okay, so there was something before this. And it opened up, I guess, the world's eyes. Everyone knows what Palestine is now, what the Palestinians are. They know about the Nakba. They know about the illegal settlements. So I guess it kind of gives you a little bit of hope of maybe there will be some type of justice. Maybe there will be some type of international law or something,
Mhm.
some type of punishment for what they've done to the Palestinians, like for their war crimes. Um, yeah, and
Absolutely.
might not happen this year or next year. Might not happen in the next 10 years. I don't know. It might be the next generation. But eventually, um, and I hope it's much sooner than later, I believe that there will be some type of justice and that just humanity and international law um, will work, I guess, because it's really failed. It's really failed the Palestinians, and it's failed a lot of other people, like in other countries too.
100%. That is very, very, very true and well said. Do you know like some numbers, even if it's just like, like not accurate, but for people to be so surprised that there are Palestinian Christians and there are Palestinian Christians in Gaza, and that there is a church for that matter, was it the second oldest or the third oldest church in the world that they
Okay.
bombed?
Yeah. So the Greek Orthodox Church was the one that got bombed.
Mhm.
That was the third oldest church in the world.
Crazy.
3% of Gaza's Christian population have been killed. The population, I think there's only around 800 Palestinian Christians left in Gaza.
Mhm.
Over time, they get, I guess they go to seek a life for their children, or their children go to travel abroad or
Yeah.
seek opportunities because, living under siege and occupation and oppression is not really something anyone would like their children to grow up in. And then I guess it's quite so you've got all these different types, all right? So majority of us, probably about 90% of the Palestinian Christians live in the diaspora,
Mhm.
right? You've got some that live in what they call Israel or occupied Palestine. You've got some that live in the occupied West Bank. You've got some that live in Jerusalem, and you've got some that live in Gaza, and they've all got different rights. They've all got different what do you call it? Like citizenship or
Mhm.
residency or whatever. And the populations in all of these little pockets are so small that if you wanted to get married, just say you lived in Jerusalem, you wanted to marry someone from Gaza, you would have to move to Gaza. You're not allowed to bring them to Jerusalem. If you wanted to marry someone who lived in, like, Tel Aviv, right? A Palestinian Christian, for example, that lived in Tel Aviv, but you lived in the West Bank, then they would have to go there if Israel gave them a residency there because you wouldn't be allowed to move to that one. So they really limit the pool of people being able to get married.
Hmm.
And they force the Palestinian Christians to actually leave the country, just through these little tiny things, because you can't live here if you marry somebody. If you marry someone from abroad, they can't come live here. We're not going to give them a citizenship. We're going to deny them residency. So they've created conditions that really push and force people out. And then I think if you go to get educated outside, and you're out of the country for a couple of years, they can take away your residency as well.
Really?
So yeah. Um, yeah, because you've been absent. They've got these absentee laws, which is what they put in place so that any Palestinian who wasn't home or went outside during the Nakba, for example, they were absent from their home, so their house was confiscated. Um, yeah, and
Wow.
then in Israel, and I really hate saying that word because I just think it's
The
so negative.
occupation. We could call it the
Yeah,
occupation.
occupation. Okay. So they had um, about 135,000 Palestinian Christians
Wow.
30 years ago. All
Oh.
right.
Hmm.
The number of Christians there at the moment is 185,000. 25% of them are not actually Palestinian. They're Russian or from somewhere else. So they're importing Christians to pretend they're pushing the number up. However, the actual Arab or Palestinian population of Christians um, has only really increased by about 1,700 people in the last 30 years.
Wow.
Yes.
Well, this is crazy. This is really crazy. All of it that you told me. I mean, I knew that with the marriage situation, this is like a problem for Palestinians and a whole Christian Muslims, whatever they are. But 1,000. How much did you say? 1,700 Christians more than 30 years ago?
Yep. In 30 years, that's how
That
much it's
is
increased by.
nuts. So
Yeah.
this is where once again the hypocrisy is at its finest. You see, the Armenian Christians are being literally murdered in Jerusalem. They have been there for centuries. And why do they feel the need to murder them and bring Russian Christians in? Like, what sense does it make if they want to up the number?
Yeah. Well, I think that there's Zionist Christians, so they're a different type.
Oh, that they bring
Um,
it in. Okay, yeah, makes
yeah.
sense. Yeah,
Um,
make much sense.
yeah. Yeah. Or they identify as Jewish Christian or something like that. Um, Now with the oh, I forgot what I was going to say. Sorry.
Oh, sorry. Maybe I could be. I was talking. I said, yeah, the Armenian.
Oh,
Um,
the yes.
yeah.
Yeah. So I think it was last January.
Mhm.
An Armenian bar owner actually he got raided. You can look it up. There's an article about it. If you look up death to Arabs, death to Christians.
Mhm.
So Jewish extremists went in there chanting death to Arabs, death to Christians, attacking his bar. Um, yeah, so that's the type of treatment that people get. So that was an Armenian. More recently is there's a UNESCO heritage site, World Heritage Site. It's about 500 acres of land owned by Palestinian Christians,
Mhm.
by multiple families. That's recently been confiscated, and they built like a little church on it.
Mhm.
Um, and the Israelis came and they demolished it. They took it down with the um, excavator or bulldozer, whatever you call it.
Wow.
Yeah, and then they went and they actually arrested one of the. She was young, like maybe in her maybe 30-year-old. She was protesting. It was her family's land. She was protesting because armed settlers backed by the military come and threaten to kill you if you don't leave your land. She was protesting against the seizure of her land. She's the one who got arrested instead of the armed settlers. And that's Palestinian Christians. I really honestly believe that they hate the Christians more than they hate the Muslims. Christians get spat on. We're called idol worshippers. Our churches, our statues, our cemeteries, they're all vandalized. Even in Israel, like not even just Palestinian territory, like in those territories as well. Like if you look up like the Malkite Church in Haifa, you'll find like, articles. If you look up persecution of Christians, you'll find numerous articles where persecution of Christians is on the rise by the Israeli settlers, the Jewish extremists. But the West is fed this false narrative, and it's like they filter out anything that makes the Jewish Israelis look bad in any way, so that everyone is just hyper focused on what happens to a Jewish person, but they will ignore the 50 million injustices that those people actually committed on the Palestinians.
Facts. How is it for you, like in your experience and what your family tells you and what you see, for you personally, the relationship between Christians and Muslim Palestinian?
Okay, so
I know it's a very obviously unnecessary question, but
it's I haven't been to Palestine, okay, but I was raised, you don't ask someone's religion because it's rude. We're all the same. Okay, that's how I was raised. In Lebanon, you can't tell the difference between a Muslim and a Christian. All the same. Okay.
with the hijab.
Yeah, but most people don't wear a hijab.
Okay.
And it doesn't matter if you do anyway. My mum and dad, their home across the road, there's Palestinian Muslims. They live across the road from mum and dad's house here in Australia. So for Eid, they'll come, they'll bring their sweets. For our Easter, we give them our sweets. I used to work with like a Lebanese Muslim, and we would have at work a little Christmas tree. He was the most excited person to decorate the Christmas tree out of everyone in our office. Like it was, I want to do it,
That's so cute.
Yeah, well, we don't have this, I think it's more division in the West than what is actually in Lebanon and Palestine. Perhaps other countries are different, like I won't compare us to Iran or Afghanistan or anything like that. But in the Levant specifically, I think that we're more united. You go look in Palestine even, the mosque and the church are like across from each other. We're always side by side. In Lebanon even, like the mosque and the church is side by side, like, or across from each other. Even here where I live in Australia, in Melbourne, there's a mosque. There is a church across the road from it. Like they're always next to each other. And we've always lived together as one people. The Palestinians and like the Lebanese and the Levant, for example, we're very we have a shared culture, we have a shared history, we have a shared language, we have shared food, we have shared customs. We're all exactly the same. The only difference is I go to church on Sundays and they'll go to mosque on Fridays. And then we have Christmas. If you actually look up Christmas in Gaza in 2022, that was their last Christmas. So the YMCA in Gaza puts on a big Christmas tree full of lights. All the kids come. They have Christmas celebrations in Gaza.
That's beautiful.
Muslim kids and Christian kids together. You look at the West Bank, Bethlehem and stuff like that. Christmas celebrations are done together with the Muslims. They celebrate with us. Like there's no issue there. We are the same blood. We have the same ancestors. We're family that married Muslims. Like I've got cousins in Lebanon, they're married to Muslims. My it doesn't matter. I don't know why here it's like, oh no, if you're a Muslim, you're a terrorist, or if you're an Arab, you're a terrorist, or if you're Palestinian, you're a terrorist. We're human beings.
Did that ever mess with your confidence growing up, being Palestinian, Lebanese, and a Christian? Like being something that people cannot fathom for some reason?
Yeah, so my dad, I guess, kind of said, oh, don't say you're Palestinian. Don't tell them you're Palestinian.
Yeah.
Don't say anything. Don't rock the boat. You won't be able to get a job. They'll ruin you. Um, that that's the whole thing is if
Mhm.
you're a Palestinian, and that's the truth as well, because you look at people who have called what's happening in Gaza a genocide. So any politician, any public figure like news reporter or journalist or whatever, teacher even, they will be demonized, they will lose their job, and they will find it very hard to get another one just because they've spoken out against killing people, in effect. So this is something that I think most, if not all, Palestinians grow up with, is knowing that if people know that you're Palestinian, you're going to get treated different.
Yeah.
And this doesn't apply just to the West, because this is also in the Middle East. Because the
Yes.
Palestinians do cop racism. They're the refugees. They're the people that no one wanted, no one wants.
Yeah.
Go back to your own country, I guess. If Israel didn't exist, then there would be no Palestinian refugee problem anywhere in the world. There wouldn't be this problem. Um, but countries didn't give them citizenships because they were supposed to return home to where they came from. So they were always treated different because they were never really part of any society. My dad went and worked in a lot of countries like Libya, Kuwait, um, and he would have to pay extra money, like they would dock his pay, extra tax, because he's Palestinian.
Crazy.
Yeah.
Seriously?
Yeah. So there's
Oh
discrimination against
man.
just being Palestinian. Uh, it, you just get discriminated just because that's the way you're born. We didn't choose it. We didn't choose to have our land occupied and stolen. We didn't choose to become refugees. We didn't choose that.
Yeah.
And instead of seeing us as the victims of this colonization, um, they want to make us out to be terrorists or something. We didn't even do anything to anyone. These people came from Europe and stole our houses, and like, why aren't they demonized for that?
Because some people's belief, unfortunately, is exactly that, and that is the biggest Christian group, I guess. That's what we learned earlier, and it's really heartbreaking to see humans doing this to other humans while other humans watch and condone it. Literally.
It's disturbing.
What is important for you for people to know? I mean, you're very, very clear in your message, very, very clear, and I love it. Like you don't hold back. And do you feel like, for example, when we're talking about, the next generation, children and stuff, what is for you important to teach your children if you ever have any?
I've got twins, actually. They're 2 years old at the moment, so they're too young to.
Okay, you went and said it. I formulated the question so people wouldn't know, and because I
Oh,
wasn't sure, I wasn't sure if I could say it. So yeah, and
good,
I
yes. So
love
I've got
twins. I love twins. Oh my
two,
God,
I've got
I
a
love
good boy
them.
and little girl.
Oh, I'm gonna come and steal them. So, what's important for them to learn from you? Like, what's
good.
important for you, I should say, for them to learn. Gosh.
Well, my grandmother taught me about what happened to her family. I will teach my children what happened to my family. Um, I
Yeah.
think the truth is important. And I believe that, they should know that, there is this injustice and that the world is not fair, um, because it hasn't been. That's a horrible lesson to teach your kids, isn't it?
Very much so. Very much
I
so.
always have hope, always be a good person. Like I very much teach my kids, be gentle and kind and nice, and they're sweet babies that they share, and um, they're very affectionate. They're very lovely, like beautiful.
Aw,
You know,
super.
um, yeah. I don't know. What do you teach them? What do you teach your children? Do you teach them that because you're a Palestinian, people can say horrible things about you and kill other Palestinian kids, little boys and girls, just like you, just because they're Palestinian as well. And it's okay. It's allowed, and no one's going to give a shit. Is that what you're supposed to teach kids?
Well, this is exactly what I'm wondering because and children understand. Like my friend's daughter, she is 3, and one
Yeah.
day, she came back from school and she hadn't eaten her food. I'm like, why didn't you eat your food? She goes, oh, I wanted to leave it for the children in Palestine. I can eat later.
Mm.
That is so like, you think like a 3-year-old understands, this kind of fact that these children have less and are not well.
Yeah, and they want to help them. Yeah.
That's that's
Yeah.
that's
It's hard. It's really hard. Like I won't teach my children hate because that's wrong. And I wasn't taught hate. Um, but yeah, it's just disappointing that you have to teach your children truth. And the truth is that certain people will get extra privileges and extra rights just because they are not Palestinians.
100%.
Um, and I guess any colonized country has the same. Like we've got Australian, the indigenous people here, like they've also suffered like atrocities, really horrible genocide. Um, and I guess their kids grow up feeling different and yeah, of different value. And
And I think that's the worst you can do to a child. Make a child feel different from everybody else.
yeah, my
That's really
cousin was
worse.
the one who had her aunt and cousin killed
Mhm.
in Gaza. She's got a daughter. I think she's 11, and she lives in Australia as well. Yeah, and her best friend was a Jewish girl who can't be friends with her because she's a terrorist.
The girl said
Yeah,
it or the parents of the girl?
yeah.
And this is supposed to be the beauty of it. The next generation that is not like the prior generations of the past 76 years. And I don't want to say just 76 years because this has been ongoing much longer when we think about the British Mandate and for it to be planned and executed and everything. This was in the making like before 48.
Mm, yeah.
Wow.
You
I,
go.
I
Palestinian Christian kid is also a terrorist.
exactly.
Doesn't matter what religion we are.
But it's just funny because this is much easier to, for the average Joe to understand if you say everybody is a Muslim, when Christianity is like so big in the West, you cannot say, are they a Christian terrorist? People wouldn't grasp it. They probably wouldn't believe it. But if you make it out to be another religion and just put everyone in the same, corner or in the same drawer, then it's much easier. Like,
Yeah, not religion though, because you look at like Russia. Russia's been vilified, right?
yeah.
They're not Muslims. So it's not like that's just an excuse. That's not the reason.
That is not the
Okay, that's
reason. I
not
don't,
the
yeah.
reason why people are justifying it or excusing it. Um, that's not the reason. It's just an easy excuse to say, "Oh, Muslims." Okay, because otherwise, why are they killing people in Russia? Like, why is Russia being the villain, like the villain, or whatever? In any country that's not Muslim that has issues, they also get villainized. So it's not. a religious thing. It's just these particular people in movies, these are the bad guys. You've been indoctrinated to believe that.
Yes.
Let us push it a little more and push it a bit more in our news. And that's all you're going to believe. Like you read the papers here,
Hmm.
all the news, every single one about Israel and Hamas, right? The
Hmm.
war on Hamas. No, I'm
Yeah.
sorry, it's the war on the Palestinian children that you're killing. All
Yes.
right, not on Hamas. Anyway, every single article, at the end, there's that part about, after October 7, where 1,200 Israelis were killed.
Yes.
Okay,
Mhm.
every single one has that. They don't say how many Palestinian children got killed or how many Palestinians got killed, or if they did get killed, they say they died. They don't say that it was an Israeli airstrike that killed them. So language matters, and the wording that they're using and everything also matters, and that's what's painting this picture in people's minds. Um, yeah, so they've turned it into poor Israeli people that got killed.
Yes.
But let's just completely omit everything they did before and after. And you're going to believe it because we're going to tell you in every single article, day after day, month after month, year after year, you're going to believe it because that's all you're going to read.
I always used to think a long time ago when I was still a little bit more naive. I used to think, wow, I wonder how people in Australia are. Maybe they're not so westernized in terms of fake news and media and freedom of speech and stuff. And then when you look more into things, you see how much alike it is literally everywhere because you are literally on the other side of the earth for me, like same like I'm on the other side of the earth for you. So somehow you always want to believe maybe there's a better place where people are more fair.
It's not as bad here,
Really?
okay? Yeah. Compared to America, it's not as bad. I'm not saying it's good, but it's not as
Mm.
bad. Um, yeah, like we don't have the gun violence and all that sort of stuff that you guys have in the United States. Uh, I think that people here, I think it is more multicultural and it is a more mixed society. People are still racist though.
Yeah, the
Um,
racism is still high though, right?
yeah, but I don't think it's as bad
Mm-hmm.
or as pronounced as what it would be in like the United States, for
Mm-hmm.
example. Um, Yeah, because we don't have like in America you see like on the movies or whatever they like got full ghetto areas,
Yeah, yeah.
or it's just African Americans live here. It's just white people live here. They've got this kind of segregated society.
Mm-hmm.
We don't really have that here.
So
Yeah,
even not for the indigenous, the Aborigines, they're not kind of like
yeah,
outcasted, living somewhere.
yeah. So you've got the ones that live in rural Australia, like in the country.
Mm-hmm.
Um, they've got their own kind of towns and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
They're much poorer and all
Yeah.
of that sort of thing. But it's not like I don't know, it's just different. Like if one lived next door to me, it wouldn't be. It would be like that's just my neighbor.
Yeah. Yeah.
You
That's how it
know,
should be. That's
yeah.
exactly how it should be. So then Palestinians in Australia do not experience the scrutiny that
Oh yeah, very,
uh,
very much so we do. Yeah, yeah. But we are very demonized in the media, especially.
crazy.
Um, they even use like false footage or footage from other events
Yes,
just to make us
yes.
look good in our protest. So this actually happened on October 7.
Mm-hmm.
Um, October 7, yeah, the protest here.
Yeah.
Um, it wasn't a protest, it was more like a vigil sort of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Um, yeah, but they used footage from a couple of weeks ago, like before that, when there was
Mm-hmm.
an arms expo here. Um,
Mm-hmm.
did get a bit more rowdy and violent because there was an exhibition of weapons
Yeah.
in our city. And people, it was an anti-war protest. It wasn't a Palestinian protest, it was anti-war protest. And people were like burning things, and there was like fights with the police and stuff like that.
Mm.
Separate to the Palestinian protests, which happen every Sunday, and we don't have any incidents. Anyway, they decided on October 7th to show those anti-war protest footage and pretend it was the Palestinian protest, which it was.
Typical, yeah. Typical
Yeah, and then it's, oh, sorry, we made a mistake, but your damage is done, isn't it? Because you already let it out for people to get angry.
100%. Oh man, Larissa, thank you so much for joining me today. I hope we can do it again. We were supposed to be a couple of more people. Even Mag had problems logging in and out. Thank you so much. Is there anything else you want to leave the people with before we close this out?
Free Palestine till it's backwards, motherfucker.
Yes. How about that?
Yeah.
I co-sign this 100%. That's how it's got to be, exactly. I think this is the best line actually of this whole, thing. This should be on a poster. Oh my God.
No, I think it's just important for people to go and educate themselves. Go look up persecution of Palestine Christians. Go look up, the truth. That's it. You don't have to believe a word I say. Just go find the truth, and see. That's all I want people to do, is just to find the truth.
Absolutely. Yeah. As you see, guys, they do exist. Palestinian Christians, Middle Eastern Christians. They are not terrorists. They are not Muslims. They're human beings just like everybody else. We are, as Arabs, we are nothing that nobody else is. We have good and bad and evil all as well. But the West, for some reason, has more evil. So that's it. Free Palestine until it's backwards, motherfucker. That's how we close it out. I love it.
Thank you. You take care.
Thank you so much, guys. Thank you so much for tuning in. And I'll be back with a brand new episode next week. Peace out.